All right, folks. So I wanted to talk a little bit more. Again, we're still in Unit 3, but still talking about Mesoamerican culture. We're still talking about in Central America. The rise at this time was talking about the Maya people or the Mayan civilization. It's significant for this because it's one of the larger civilizations we see. We have a lot of record of them. We have a lot of what we can find in the way of trade. They're significant because we can track them more, but we can also track their historic rise and fall a little bit better because we find quite a bit of their architecture. They're located a little bit more south from where the Olmecs and the Toltecs are. They're located in more present-day Guatemala, in that Yucatan Peninsula area. They're significant because they are building some step pyramids, they are building some temples, they are building quite a few things. But in addition to that, they have a written language, but also in the written language, they actually are going to create what's called the long count calendar. The Mayan calendar is significant because what it does is, interestingly enough, they're going to date their monuments, they're going to date their pyramids, so we can see about when the height of the civilization, when most of the building is taking place, and also when it starts to ease off, because sometimes we don't necessarily have everything completed when they're done. To me, the Mayans are interesting because they're much more organized. We know that they are going to do some wonderful math. We're going to do some wonderful building. They're going to do some wonderful science. We know that they're going to be able to chart seasons and stars. We know that they're a complex civilization, that they have a written record as well as a spoken language. There's always been a little bit of mystery concerning with them because, the picture was always, okay, well, they're not as violent as say, the Aztecs, or they're not as violent. And you got to say that we've discovered that might not be correct, that they have a lot of the shared same tendencies. And that's what you have to remember about the civilizations in this area, that they have a lot of the same root. They have a lot of the same complex beliefs when it comes to religion that they're shared. I relate it to the Greeks and the Romans, and how so many of those beliefs are interwoven and overlaid at that particular point in time. And so keep that in mind as we're talking about this, and then think about what's happening. What's significant about the Mayan people? They're going to do an awful lot of building. They're going to just stretch out an awful long way. They figure that at the height of the Mayan Empire, there's anywhere from 2 million to upwards of 10 million people in the empire, that they're going to stretch from this section on the edge of Guatemala all the way down into the edges of South America, that they have found some huge ruins. The one that's most significant they find is Tikal, T-I-K-L, T-I-K-A-L. They think it was actually the capital city of Yaxamaxtal. And it's a huge complex, not just of temples and pyramids, but of buildings in the way of what we think of as more of apartment buildings and palaces and things along that line, as well as the complex temples. You're going to find the rise in this point, we already know, of pyramids. We have step pyramids here, not the smooth side pyramids like in later Egypt, but step pyramids. And they're also significant because these step pyramids are actually packed earth. Okay, packed earth with a front facing outside of those large bricks and large blocks that are there. So it's not the hollow burial mausoleum pyramids of the Aztecs. What's also significant is in this group, the Mayans are going to be particularly proclivity when it comes to making weapons, when it comes to religion, when it comes to farming. When it comes to farming, they're going to go ahead and, as many of the other groups do here, they're going to grow what's called the Three Sisters. And the Three Sisters is not unique to them because it's going to go throughout the Southwest and into the Southeast. It is a growing of three different items together. They're going to grow maize. Maize is not corn, folks. It's a lot like corn, but it's not. It's a hybrid form of it. The idea is that it's growing more kernels per cob, that is more resilient, to the weather conditions, and that it's supposed to have a faster growing cycle, so it allows them to grow more under more conditions along the way. They're going to grow the maize, and of course maize grows kind of like a corn stalk straight up. With the maize, they're also going to plant beans, and the beans are significant because beans need something to climb on. Well, you plant the maize first, and then you go ahead and plant the beans, and the beans will grow up the stalks of the maize, which is good because it gives it support for the beans. But in addition, the beans are going to have a leafy foliage, and the leafy foliage will take and shade the base of the plant, because in addition, they're also going to plant that third sister, and that third sister is squash. Well, look, if you don't know much about squash, squash grown in direct sunlight is going to get sunburned, and it's not going to do well. So what happens is when you go ahead and plant the beans first, they provide a bit of shade for the squash itself, so it's a more hospitable atmosphere. The other thing about this is that the three plants growing together actually affect a nitrate cycle in the soil. So not only does one leach the nitrate in, one restores the nitrate, and one helps to fix it. And so they figure out early on that growing these together is beneficial for the soil, but also beneficial in the growing conditions for each other, which is unique. It's almost an early form of being able to rotate the crops, but they do it almost in a system of what we call intercropping in other areas of the world. Because all these are much higher in protein, they're largely vegetarian. Yeah, they're largely vegetarian. They're not known for domesticating animals for meat. They're not known for a whole bunch of hunting for meat at this particular point. It's not that they don't have some domestication of them, but they're not known for the meat sources there. Now, we do know that even though they're going to learn some metallurgy, they're not going to make that jump to the Irons and the Bronze Age. So when it comes to weaponry, the weaponry is unique. I have a copy of a weapon here that my wife got for me. This is what's called Macawel, and it is a combination of both a club, and these edges right here are obsidian chips. And the obsidian chips, let me turn it in there, you can see, they're not incredibly sharp, but they can be. And the purpose of this is, look, we're not using any iron. We're not using metals for cutting things. We're using obsidian chips. And if you looked really close, you can see this has got a rough edge. And what they've done is they have taken another harder rock and chipped the edges off of this to create a much sharper edge. Now, the thing about this is part of the belief system of the Mayans, of the Aztecs, and many of the people in this area, is that the spilling of blood is part of a religious ritual, And the idea is many years ago in the creation of the world, the gods spilled their blood to help create man. Well, in you spilling blood, it helps to re-nourish the soil and again, please the gods. And so the idea of this is not to outright kill anybody, but to whack somebody with it, drag this across them, and tear them up. And hopefully, the more you tear them up, the more they bleed. And the more they bleed, well, the happier the gods get. That particular one is made by a Mayan artisan in the area, not here, but in actually Guatemala, that my wife commissioned for me. It is made with embedded mother of pearl, so from the shells itself. It is made with the onyx. It's made with the chips by an actual Mayan craftsman who claims the heritage there. It's important because it's part of the culture, okay? There's quite a bit going on with this. We know the Mayans are going to create a language. We know that they're going to trade. We know that they're going to coexist. They're going to coexist the same time as the Aztecs. They're going to coexist the same time as the Teotihuacanos. They're going to coexist and compete with the surrounding empires. And when I say the Mayan people, so you have to realize that the different Mayan cities are also competing against each other, and so it's not really a unified empire by itself for the most part. I'm going to leave this off here because I think they're important people, and what I'll also talk about is I will talk about their creation myth for mankind here after a bit on another video.